together. And it was funny because back then when we danced together as young dancers, we would argue and fuss all the time, like about steps, who was going to step right. Then as you get older, you just don't have the energy to be arguing all the time.
All right. Thank you, folks. Welcome back to the Best Worst Thing podcast. This is Joshua Lewy, your host, and I'm super excited for this 2026 episode. It's actually interesting, and I have to apologize to my guest here because we actually recorded this at the end of 2025, and something happened with the technology. And so she was gracious to come back and visit with me one more time. So I really want to introduce her real quickly and get into this, and just want to say thank you on the front end of this. So my guest is a visionary dance teacher and arts leader who shaped the landscape of American ballet education. Nena is the co-founder and co-artistic director of Ballethnic Dance Company and Academy of Dance, a groundbreaking company that started in 1990. Before that, she enjoyed a rich professional career, which is something that, I think very few of us get to be at the peak of our expertise or our fields. And she's done it, folks. She's gone to the NFL. She's gone to the WNBA. She's done it. She was a professional dancer where she toured nationally and internationally in companies such as Ruth Mitchell Dance Theatre, Dance Theatre of Harlem, and then, of course, the Atlanta Ballet. Nena's a graduate of the University of North Carolina School of Arts, where she got her bachelor's in fine arts and dance. And then, of course, her work, she continues to mentor and teach and create pathways for young artists of all backgrounds, especially folks of color who haven't had access in the past. And so I'm excited to hear more about it.
Solo time, find me untouched, double dutch the disco, days to daydream, friends to fool fiends, fight to fit in, but I implore to explore within, dynamite sight for the new rhythm, preservation for the nation of sin, playing with the smell, taste, touch, and laugh, the road less travel, take a narrow.
Welcome, Nena.
Thank you. I'm really glad to be back in 2026. That's a blessing.
You know what? I'll say, I know we had some conversation before this, but we are here and it is a blessing. And I'm blessed to have you here. And again, thank you for your patience with my technology and your folks on your team who were able to help reschedule this. That was extremely helpful. So let's just get into it. I kind of set up the introduction, but if you could just tell the listeners a bit about Ballethnic and your role there and what you do there.
Okay, so I am a co-founding director, and my role currently is shifting. So I founded the company it's about to be 36 years on January 15th. So I'm really excited about that. With my then boyfriend, Waverly T. Lucas II, but now he's my husband and my lifelong partner. So as young adults, we started this dream, and we're still living the dream and passing it on. Currently, my work is still all about teaching and sharing, which I definitely enjoy teaching. I've been a teacher, I feel, my whole life. I'm the firstborn. I have a brother and a sister. So growing up, I was always sharing and teaching and bossing. And I think that role just segued to where we are now. At this point, 36 years, my work is really to share with the next generation, the now generation, not even next, the now generation, trying to share with them all the things that it takes to run an active, not-for-profit dance organization and what that means and how the meaning can change as we see in the world. The meaning is shifting. Sharing all the skills beyond the dance, because there are many things when running a business. There's definitely the teaching, the creation, the choreography, but there's also what I call the peopling. So you have to deal with the vast array of people. And currently, I think that's one of my biggest roles is really merging all the ideas with all the groups of people that we work with and making sure we have a harmonious environment. So in a week, that might mean that I teach classes for various ages. Mostly I teach the more advanced levels. And it also means doing all the things that it takes to create a class, which is one thing, your curriculum, your syllabus, making a class work that serves all the people that are in the class and all the ways that they learn. That's one thing. And then we have big productions. The big productions, we just finished our version of Ballethnic's Urban Nutcracker. We've been doing that for 32 years, and we were one of the first ethnicized nutcrackers because we did the regular nutcracker for years, Waverly and I, and we wanted to really create something more accessible. So we have that big production. We also have a spring show. Typically, it's our signature ballet, The Leopard Tale, but in past years, we've been creating our own storytelling ballets in which we invite the community through our process to learn about R&B music, rhythm and blues, which can be fading. And we have our associate artistic director, Adam L. McKnight, who is a vocalist, and he writes and creates songs. We bring in classical Black artists and composers and other artists, and we create live music, stories. And in creating this, we tell stories of struggles, challenges, and victories in our community. So we're working on that for the spring. And then we have tons of community performances and performances in our building, which is located on Ballethnic Way, our own street. And and we are getting ready, as I spoke of, celebrating our 36th anniversary. We have a new mural in which the city of East Point, where we reside, our public art coordinator, Chris Swain, was able to help create the first. It was a dream, but now it is like a beautiful mural on the side of our building that Armando painted of a beautiful brown dancer leaping across Atlanta. So we're going to dedicate that mural on the 15th and have our community come out and celebrate, have snacks, sing songs, and just dance. So we have an array of ways that we engage in the community that really celebrates all of who we are. We talk about our challenges and problems, and again, our victories. So it's a way to stay healthy in all the ways.
Fantastic. I do appreciate you taking us through the challenges and struggles and victories and telling all the stories. I think it's hard. We discussed some of the challenges that happen in the world, and it's easy anchored in those places, but that's not the only stories that we have. And it sounds like you take full responsibility in that. Before we go into your kind of path to Ballethnic, I have two kind of off the cuff questions. I hope they're not, well, you'll tell me. We can always edit out if you're like, shut it down, Josh. Okay. One is running a business. So here you are, this person who gets this BFA, you go out, you dance nationally, internationally. You probably saw a lot of different versions of leadership. You got to see how, from an academic standpoint, you got to see it in a ballet company, which is a business. And so I guess, how do you transition in your brain from being a creative, a performer, even a teacher, to like actually adding the business aspect of it? Do you mind talking about that?
I love that, because I was just talking about that to our associate artistic director yesterday, Adam McKnight. So he's also a person that's versed in technology. He's a beautiful creative. He's a vocalist. So we talk about sometimes our different parts of ourselves. It's like our different hats we put on. And sometimes you're wearing all the hats. And sometimes the hats fight, honestly.
Right.
So sometimes my artistic, creative ballerina side fights the numbers person that is inside of me. And I mean, I can actively see them wrestling to the ground, because the creative side is like, you want to do these beautiful ballets and have all this great production value. And it costs a lot of money. And especially now, prices are soaring.
Yes.
So that part. And then there's the part that I look at all the numbers with our finance manager, Felicia. So I know every part of what everything costs. And we also do comparisons. So I think back, I never wanted to do that. My dad, when I was growing up, wanted me to be an accountant. And I always told him I wanted to be a dancer, a ballerina. But he's like, you're smart. You like to add numbers. And so here it is. I think he put that jinx on me, because I ended up being that person. And I remember another thing, my friend Gloria Bowden, who was the box office director, rest her soul, for the Atlanta Ballet, she would make me sit with her in the early days, 1990, 91, sit there and look at grants and budgets. And I would be in my point shoes with my leotard and skirt on and just moving so I could stay warm. And I was like, I do not want to do this. Why are you making me do this? And what was funny is now I understand why. So it is a delicate balance. And I think many times it's a fight to do the things properly and ethically on the business side so that I can get the reward of getting back in the studio. So one of the classes that I'm taking in a master's program, we talk about mission and margin. And so what I realized from the professor, Megan Heber, is that no margin, no mission. So that's making me to see it more clearly that you have to have the finance and able to be creative. And people think that it's just this mystical, magical thing and you just jump out and do it. But point shoes cost $100+. They don't last very long. Costume is expensive. Just all the technical things that you need for a show, not only for the beauty of it, but for the safety. So learning all those things is really interesting to me now. I feel like even if I lived another whole life, that there's so much more to learn and implement. And I'm just really grateful for all the really great mentors that I've had that slowed me down enough to take in some of that.
I was smiling when you said in my point shoes, going over the, budgets and grants, but you know what, mission and margin. So what I used to work with social work students and public health students, and most of our students, a lot of them were going to go work for nonprofits, especially on the social work side, and would be so frustrated by the margin conversations, the business conversations. Quite frankly, in higher education right now, that's a real big challenge as well, which is not wanting folks, the tension between people not wanting it to be treated like a business or a corporation. And so there's a lot of struggle there. On my campus in particular, I just will leave it at that and won't go into it. But what I will say is, when I worked in a nonprofit, that's something I got frustrated with as well. Like, hey, we're here for the kids. We're here to do this. And it took some maturing and it took some good mentorships like the folks that you had to really, and maybe even in grad school, to break out the two, to say you can't have one without the other. And I started framing it to my students as, I like mission and margin better. I used to say mission and bottom line. Like there's that tension and you have to have both. But I like mission and margin. So I'm going to steal that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So give that credit to Professor Megan Heber, because it really resonated with me, because it is a great tension. And sitting in a room where someone knows that they can create something magnificent and going, yeah, but that costs an extra $30,000, $40,000. So we're going to have to we're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then you think about with all the other things, you have to insure all the things. Everything is skyrocketing. So now I think as creatives, we are using all of our innovation, and the real sense of what innovation means is sometimes going back to the core of what's important. So the core for us is art, dance, gathering together. That is meaningful still. When we have all the other things that enhance that, that's great. But if you cannot pay your bills, then we would rather just go back to the root of it, I think, I know. So it's helping everybody to understand that and having the hard conversations and the sharing. So everybody knows where we're working from. And then it just makes it clear, not getting to the end part and then try to explain it. Explain it in the beginning. So along the way, we're all on mission.
That's great. Well, you have some really strong leadership approaches and strategies that it sounds like you're implementing. And I think that's wonderful. I'm going to shift a bit now. So here's the other question I was going to ask you, and then we'll get to your path to Ballethnic. So you've been with your husband, then boyfriend, when you started the company, and that's a long time. And, it's something that's harder and harder to find. And so I'm kind of curious if you don't have to spend too much time on it, but what works? What's keeping, like, for the two of you?
What works? Sometimes it's the tension that works, and knowing that we are very different people. And I think one of the really great things he said to me the other day when I was really trying to pull him to my side of a conversation, he was like, Nena, I don't have to agree with you all the time. We are very, very different. But in the early years of our relationships, we worked side by side and we worked together all the time, and we partnered and we danced together. And it was funny because back then when we danced together as young dancers, we would argue and fuss all the time, like about steps, who was doing the step right. Then as you get older, you just don't have the energy to be arguing all the time. So it's funny. Now I just really try to leave space for him to be who he is and how he is evolving. And he allows me to be who I am. So I'm very social. I talk to everybody. I try to get understanding and clarity. And he does not want to do that. He'd rather be gardening, creating, and he's not going to be stuck with a bunch of people trying to rationalize things. So really the biggest thing is having space between ourselves, doing things together that we both enjoy. Sometimes, like when I was younger, like if there was something that he liked a lot, I would just do it and be mad about it. So now I just let him do what he loves to do. I do what I love to do. And if there's something we jointly want to do together, we do that. A lot of times we work so much just sitting, watching a movie. So it's allowing for people to be who they are and appreciating that your life is your gift. And you get to share it with someone, luckily for many decades, but you don't really have to manage them. I don't like to be managed.
And you don't like to be managed, and you don't have to manage them, which is great.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate let me kind of take a little side quest there. All right, so I'll get us back to talking about your path. So I mentioned, your time at the University of North Carolina, but if you could tell the audience a bit about kind of your path to just dance in general and how you found it just all the way through to Ballethnic. I remember our last conversation and your energy. Anyways, please share.
Okay. I feel like it's a very fun story. And what's fun about it is I feel very blessed to have discovered early on what my gift and my pathway is. So as a child, I was always watching TV, always moving, always really asserting myself through movement. And dancing. And before I even had formal training, I would put on my little boombox or radio, and I would get in our basement and dance. And my younger brother, and now he's an ancestor, bless his soul, he would bring me my water, and I would say, go get my water so that I can keep rehearsing. Can you get me a towel? So he was my little Maceo, if you think about James Brown back then. And I would just dance for hours and make up just dancing. And I wanted to dance. I would watch TV, and there were not many Black people on TV, especially not Black people dancing. So eventually I saw, I think it was Ballethnic and Gelsey Kirkland doing the Nutcracker. And I was like, man, I really want to do that. But there's nobody on TV looking like me. But I discovered that there was a little dance studio coming down the street. And it was somebody from another country. And she set up a little shop. I was able to take dance with her. I really, really loved it. But she didn't stay. She was gone like maybe after 3 or 4 classes. So I continue to try to self-study and get books from the library and look at how you put your feet and all the positions. And then the next thing I discovered, my neighbor, Deneen Graham, who lived on the other side of the neighborhood, she was dancing at a local studio across town. So I talked my father into enrolling me. My mom was like, sure, let me get this girl into some kind of class, because in the grocery store and all the stores, I would push a cart and kick my leg out to the back in what is called arabesque, with your leg to the back. I didn't know what it was called then. And I would kick her, and she would be so angry, and she would prohibit me. She's like, keep your legs down. When we're in the store, stop kicking, stop turning, stop jumping. So that would be one of the things before we'd go into a store or any open space. Nena, keep your legs down. So she was glad to get me in class. I absolutely loved it. And I really excelled very quickly because I was very flexible and very energetic. So I knew this was my passion. So I asked my dad if I could go to the School of the Arts because they had a high school program and a college program. And my friend Deneen was going to the high school program. He's like, I'm not paying for you to go shake your butt and dance. I'm not doing that. So I was like, okay, I gotta get out of high school early. So I took extra classes in high school, and all I needed was my English credit to graduate. So I graduated from high school in 3 years so that I could audition and enroll in college. And on that day, my dad, I did talk him into taking me to the audition, even though it was snowing. And my energy really stood out. Dean Lindgren, again, he's an ancestor now. Dean Lindgren, he saw me just excited and smiling to be there. Most of the other students were more polished. They had been to a big audition before. I had not. So I was just happy to be in the room. So I was just smiling, moving around. And so he stretched my legs in all the directions. So whereas I didn't know the steps and everything, I was super flexible. And that really, I feel like, got me in, and the energy that I had. So I entered the School of the Arts, and again, I saw I had so much work to do. I didn't know like many things because I hadn't danced that long. At that point, I had danced 3.5, 4 years. So in ballet, it really takes a good solid 10 years to learn everything. So I was way behind, and I was 17 years old. So I just worked really hard, and it was really something to keep my confidence up. But luckily, I had some of my other friends who had danced a long time, and every night after classes, I would have a little notebook and ask them what the steps were and to help me learn how to do them. And I would do extra exercises in my point shoes. So my legs were really little and I wasn't strong. And I was just really compelled that I was made for this. And then decided that with School of the Arts, if I took all my credits, I could graduate in 3 years there and get my bachelor's. So I did the same thing there so that I could get into the professional world. I just wanted to dance. I really wanted to go beyond what my community did in North Carolina, because I'm from North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. And it was a place where there's lots of factories and people worked in factories. And a lot of my Black neighbors, there weren't a lot of like really lawyers, doctors, and things like that. There was a Black chiropractor. So I didn't see like people doing a lot of the other professions that you see in big cities. People worked really hard. They were creative and could have done things, but they just didn't leave our small town. I was determined I was going to leave our small town and be a dancer. And so once I graduated, my teacher, Marcus Alford, the jazz teacher that I was studying with in the summers at the School of the Arts, he had moved to Atlanta and was he was an associate artistic director at Ruth Mitchell Dance Theater. And he called me and said, they're looking for somebody just like you. Come on. So I moved to Atlanta and started dancing with the Ruth Mitchell Dance Theater. It was not a full-time job, so I figured out that I needed a part-time job. So I scooped ice cream after dancing all day, and then I rode a bus for about an hour to the other side of Atlanta to where I lived. And then after that, I was dancing there for a year, and one of the dancers there said, Dance Theatre of Harlem's coming to town, and you look like the prototype. You need to go audition. So I was like, okay, yeah. I had seen them like at School of the Arts come through town. And so they were at the Fox Theater. So I went over and they were having an audition or company class on stage. And Arthur Mitchell, who's also passed away, just a brilliant leader and visionary, he was teaching the class. And I hadn't done a lot of auditions, so I was just moving and dancing and just not being still. Everybody else was pretty still. And he was like, Miss, can you be still? Just stop, until I give direction. So it was really funny. So as you can here. I'm very energetic. So I was invited to move to New York, and that was exciting. I took my huge Samsonite suitcase with my little self and got me a plane ticket and moved to New York, danced with Dance Theatre of Harlem for 3 years, which was really a highlight of my adult life, and traveled all over the world with the company. I was there at a time where the company had their first Metropolitan Opera season, the Met season, on the Met stage. And so I was able to go from dancing in a place that the largest was the Stevens Center in North Carolina, which was probably, it was under 2,000 seats. It was smaller. And then mostly I danced on a 700 seat auditorium in Atlanta, small stages, to the Met. And dancing at the Met, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have like a heart attack, and they're going to have to come up here and pick me up off the stage. Because when that massive curtain came up with the orchestra playing, my eyes were the size of basketballs. Because I was like, oh my God, I'm from North Wilkesboro, North Carolina, and here I am on the Met stage. So it was like a big pinnacle of excitement in my life. But living in New York was fantastic when we were touring and traveling. But I'm definitely a person that I love space and the South and trees. So I was ready to come back home after 3 years. And so I was able to audition for the Atlanta Ballet, and the director, Bobby Barnett, had come up to New York. My friend Keiko Guest, a photographer, told me that Bobby was coming to town. She knew I wanted to come back to Atlanta. And I ended up back in Atlanta and danced at the ballet for a year. It was really great. I was able to learn a lot, to be able to be a guest Sugar Plum Fairy at some of the Nutcrackers in the region, and also for the City Ballet of Houston. And then after that, my husband, or he's my boyfriend then, Waverly, and I, we performed on a tour called Heartstrings, in which this tour raised money for AIDS research. And really that was very, I guess it was very eye-opening of how you could help social causes by using your talent. So that's when we started to kind of tick, like, you can use your gift to help things that you care about that are important to you. So after we came back from that tour, that's when we started Ballethnic.
What a journey. Yeah, the arts and social change. I think that's something that I have a personal interest in as well, and with my background being in the visual arts. But so I want to mention one thing about your energy, because you mentioned it. The little girl who was kicking her legs up at the grocery store, and your mom was like, "Keep your legs down." But and it's almost like you wouldn't be denied. Whether it was being able to take a class for a short amount of time, and then finding books and finding positioning, doing movements even if you didn't know their names, to the point where the Harlem Ballet director asked you to sit still, or whoever that was there. And you're like years later, right? I'm thinking, right? You're a young woman now, and yet you're still the same person. It seems like you were just I don't know. I don't want to say built for it, but you were pulled. I don't think you had a choice.
It was destiny. It really felt like, and I always felt like inside of myself that there was this thing that could not be denied, to your point, that I always felt like, even when there was a struggle, that I was like a magnet to this vision for myself. Yes. You know how moths fly to light? I always felt like, even when I wanted or thought maybe I should quit, it's so hard, maybe I started too late, I would have that for a moment, and then I was back at it. And really, again, to this day, I'm like that. As hard as things can get, or as hard as, like we talked about, mission and margin, and raising money to serve the things that we want to serve and create the kind of vision for our people. As hard as it gets, I'm always drawn back to the optimism of, as long as I'm breathing, I'm going to work towards that goal.
That's right. I mean, it's very inspiring to me. At this stage of my career, I'm settling into a new role, 7 months, and but
Wow.
also have these really grand ideas. I've always had these grand ideas since I was young of where I wanted to end up, and you go through life and ups and downs, and it can knock you off your path and make you even question it. But I know even personally, just listening to you reminds me that I feel like I keep being pulled in that direction. It just won't go away. So I got, I
Yeah.
even when it's tough, once I relax and rest, I keep getting pulled back in that direction. And so I got to go get it.
Yeah.
It's just like, like that's inspiring.
Listen to your calling, and it's not too late. And that's what I see with a lot of adults.
Mm-hmm.
Many of my friends who are older, some of us are going back to school. So I have
Mm-hmm.
a group of us, we're going back to school and still working. And people are like, why are you doing that? That's crazy. You already know all these things. It's okay to be curious and to keep learning. It's important to keep growing. And then there's a segment of people I know who are defeated. They don't like their life. They're unhappy about it. They're miserable. So you are the only person that can save you. And it's not like it's going to be a straight path. Like, I think back when I was young, you get in the wave and it feels like it just goes straight, even though it doesn't, because
Mm-hmm.
you're in the current of youth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as you get older, again, things happen and you get knocked off. But it is really important for us to continue to dream our whole life. That's what helps us, I feel, to live a good, fruitful life.
Mm-hmm. That's a great setup for the big question.
Uh-oh.
You ready? um, this is the point in the podcast where I ask our guests to share um, their best worst thing. It's something that at the time maybe is a challenge or setback personally or professionally, and uh, while in the moment it may have been challenging, looking back, you can see it in a different light, and you wouldn't. And so maybe that's enough of a framework. So the question is, what was the thing? How'd you get through it? And then the kind of what did you learn through that experience? And why is it the best worst thing? So Nina, what's your best worst thing?
Oh, wow. Okay, this is a good one. I feel very different today than back in 2025.
Yeah.
So I think this is the time of the year that we reflect. So for my adult life with Ballethnic, I've just been very much on purpose. I never thought I would change what I was doing in terms of trying to garner to achieve the level of resources for the company so that I could eventually retire, which I'm probably never going to retire. And it was just not working. You realize in nonprofit, you can't outwork it, you can't outthink it. You can have all the ingredients, but there are systems that are in place where I would say people of color, Black people, women, we don't get the resources, right? They're just things, obstacles, right? And you try to work around. Nobody tells you this when you get into business, right? So I think about two things. When life is good and you're young and you're healthy and you're doing all the things, and then something that's out of your control happens. So this is what happened to me and my husband. We were dancing. We were older dancers at this time. But when you start older in something, you can last longer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's representative of my life. But we were dancing, getting ready for performance. And we were doing one of our favorite partnering pas de deux. So the end of the day on Friday, he was doing his solo because it was a solo, and then we danced together. And he was dancing and he just moved around like he normally does. He's done this solo a million times. And we heard this pop. And so I was like, wow, did somebody clap their hand or what happened? So anyway, his Achilles tendon ruptured and rolled up Friday at 4:00, Atlanta traffic. So he was like, no, it's my Achilles. He knew right away. So we knew what to do. We called his podiatrist, our doctor, and we went down to the office. He was like, I'll meet you right away. So he was like, yep, you've ruptured your Achilles. You'll need surgery. We have to go through all the things. So this is a long story that I'll try to not make long. So he went through that whole surgery. We were all optimistic that he could come back, but he ended up with post-operative infections where he had to get skin grafts. It was a very long, drawn-out process. It was terrible. And for him, like, his identity was completely like chopped at that point, right? But not only his identity, it also impacted and affected my identity. And I was trying not to think of it, but that was my partner. We always danced together. And I knew with him being out, it was going to be a dramatic effect because there were so many things that he did for the company unpaid, that part, you know. So I was like, oh my goodness, Lord. But I'm a person of faith, so I knew we would get through it, but I didn't know it was going to be as hard as it was. So we kept working through. He could not walk, you know, but he was still trying to scoot and do things. And that was, you know, the challenge of probably how it got infected because he didn't really sit still, one of the things. So we kept trying to work and keep building the company, but we were down a very big person. And when you have an obstacle and somebody's down, and when you have things that are diminished in your life, that's when you really see who is for you, what is for you, and how to build some resilience. So it was years that we kept like moving along and losing our footing because, again, I couldn't write as many grants. It was harder to teach as many classes. So the revenue side was draining, drifting. It was tough. And then it seemed like there were a lot of people that were like, oh, wow, I guess they're just going to fold. It's funny, the very people that you think are in your corner, they started jumping ship and we'll just go over to the ballet. We'll leave and do this because we don't know if they're going to make it. So that was very upsetting. So there became this opportunity for us to apply for a job in Athens, Georgia. One of our friends, Lois Thomas Ewings, she was going to retire after 30 years. And we'd worked and like traveled to Athens and done workshops. And she asked Waverly if he would be interested in moving there and teaching and working at the East Athens Educational Dance Center. And he thought, no, because at that time he hadn't finished his degree. And he was like, I don't think it's good for me. And it's back to what I said earlier. So a lot of peopling and politics. And so he was like, but Nena, you can do it. And I was like, not me. And I was real clear about that. I was like, not me. I run Ballethnic. I am not going anywhere. I can send you. You go. I'll help you. So he was like, no, I really think you are the best candidate. And I just dug my feet in. I was like, I'm not doing it. I am not going. And then Lois started working me down, just apply. So anyway, I applied. He mostly helped fill out the application. And I was one of the final candidates. And I was like, I'm still not doing that. So it was funny. And it got down, there were two of us, the final candidates. It was a big hire. And in terms of politics and people, that's easy. In terms of like turning a situation around, that's easy. Teaching, easy. So when I went to the interview, most of the things they were asking, I was very confident because it's what I do. I work in the community. So I was like, whatever, Lord, I did what you told me to do. I applied, I did the interview, and then I started getting a phone call from the 706 area code. And I was like, why are they calling me? What do they want? And then the division administrator was like, okay, we've selected you. And I was like, no!
Sorry.
No!
That is not the reaction that they want.
So he was like, well, when can you start? I was like, I can't talk right now. It was so funny. So I called Waverly and I called Lois. I was like, I got the job and I don't want to do it. And it was so funny. But the long story short is I did do it. And I said, okay, I'll accept the challenge as long as I can still have my foot in Ballethnic. So every weekend, she was like, on the weekends, you can go back when you work 8 to 4, but it's a 90-minute drive.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, might as well try. You're in for a good challenge. So on the 11th, I will celebrate my 9th year of working at the East Athens Educational Dance Center, as well as co-running Ballethnic. So it's afforded many, many opportunities. So it is the best, worst thing. Mm-hmm. So at the time, I was like, that's the worst thing that could happen to me. I won't be at my beloved Ballethnic. I was just like, very like, no. But then all the people that I've met, and now I've worked to create a pipeline from Athens to Atlanta and vice versa. Mm-hmm. Many of the students here in Athens go and they train at Ballethnic on Saturday. So some of the things that I teach them here during the week, I can reinforce on Saturdays at Ballethnic. And then the kids here can perform in a larger production with professional dancers and understand that. I've also been able to teach at the University of Georgia as an adjunct professor and help to usher many of the students from East Athens over and through the gates of UGA, which some of them ordinarily would not go over to the big university because they did not feel like it was the place for them. Mm-hmm. So it's like being an ambassador, which takes a lot of energy. But I love it. I love being able to create that access and use dance to center people in the community in all the ways. So this pipeline back and forth has been amazing for me. And then some of our students, like right now, one of the students from East Athens Educational Dance Center has been able to go through the process of being nominated for the Governor's Honors Program, which is the top, 10% of students in Georgia get to go have a summer free program where they have academics and their art form. So she's down to the final round. So even I told her yesterday when we were finishing up her application, what a big feat that is, because East Athens Educational Dance Center is to create opportunity and access. That is what Miss Lois created it for. But it can be more of a fun program and maybe not always have the rigor, but now we've had the rigor for the past years that I've been here. Not that she didn't, it's just a different level when you have an affiliation with a professional company. So I really am very proud of this young lady, Jovi, for being able to push through and even work through the application process. So, and I feel like it's really pouring into this now generation of students to say, don't be afraid, be fearless and go for your dreams. So being able to do that in both the A's has been really great for me.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that story from Athens to Atlanta. I know it wasn't expected. Well, first of all, the injury wasn't expected, but, obviously we really knew right away that it was, something that catastrophic. It sounds like it right away. Mm-hmm. And the idea that it opened up this other opportunity that you probably wouldn't even considered if you two were still
that was the no.
That was the no. But even that, I can imagine so many young people would not have the same experience. Like it's so interesting how life all ties together. So there are a couple worse things. There was the injury. There was the disruption to your world and to your dance world, and then there's this offer that which is one of the best worst things that I've ever heard. So I appreciate that. So we're at time, but I want to make sure people know how to find you. So as you know, I used to live in Atlanta. Love Atlanta. Please tell Atlanta I miss her. I miss Atlanta.
Well, come on back.
Okay, I'll come back. It's not that long of a flight. But if you could just share a little bit about how people can check out your socials or your websites. What's the best way for people to find you?
Ballethnic.org. That's our website. And Facebook is at Ballethnic Dance Company. And then my Instagram is at Nena Leopardess, like a leopard with ESS on the end, at Nena Leopardess. And then you can also look up East Athens Educational Dance Center in Athens, if you're in there, at East Athens Educational Dance Center. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Well, Facebook. So that's a way. So if you're in Athens or Atlanta, there's dance for you in both places, and not just dance, but community.
Both great places, and I recommend them both. Well, thank you so much, Nena. I really appreciate your time. If you want to hold it real quick while I stop the recording. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Best Worst Thing podcast. I'm your host, Josh Lewa. Music is produced by Josh One. You can follow him at Boomnote on Instagram and Twitter, and Josh One on Spotify. Our episodes are edited by Cool Jets Audio and Visual. You can follow them at CoolJetsAV on Instagram. Our marketing is designed by Francesca Daniels. You can find her at FrankandKitty24 on Instagram. And our overall design is by Inspired Design with Ryan Daniels. You can find them at getinspired.design on Instagram. Thank you for listening to The Best Worst Thing.
This one's for the good times and this one's for the bad. This one's for the day that was the best we ever had. This one's for my good friends and this one's for my foes. The ones who get up on your skin and do